Presented by Brothers Truck Parts. Here's HE&M Solves Project Hudson Hornet.
This is going to be exciting, guys. Doug and I are about to prepare this engine to go ahead and come out of this Hudson. But before we drop it down to the ground, we've noticed that our steering linkage is a little bit close to the oil pan.
It sure is.
So we're going to remove the bracket that houses the linkage, the meat of the linkage, onto the lower frame. We're going to just remove it. We've turned the wheels, as you can see, to get the pitman arm over on this side of the subframe so that we can drop this bracket, move it out of our way, and not have to disconnect it from the car. We've already loosened our bolts. That's why we're using power. When you're working on old cars like this, you always want to make sure that your hardware can come off by hand first, then you can use air.
Just a little bit there. There we go.
There we go.
That should do it.
That gives us plenty of room because the engine's going to pivot down like this, and the old pan would have crushed our shift linkage. Now we could drop the car down, start disconnecting the engine from the car.
Oh, Sam? That's not shift linkage.
You're right, it's not a shift linkage, is it?
No.
It's a steering linkage.
Steering
Oh,
linkage.
just making sure you're paying attention.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Before we come down, we want to make sure that there is nothing else attaching this engine to this car that we need to access from under here. So just take a flashlight, go around the car's engine, making sure there's nothing attached to the car so that you don't have to bring it up and down twice, okay? And I think we're okay. So let's take
looks
our
good.
jack out, drop this thing.
All right, if you don't zip tie to get the linkage and everything out, as you're pulling the motor, the likelihood of damaging something is really high. So it's real important you get everything out of the way.
So we've disconnected the fuel line, and then the last item that's connected to the car is going to be the throttle linkage. We got the 2 cotter pins for that, and then we're ready to come down and see what else we need to detach before we remove the engine.
And I'll need one more zip tie on it. All right, it's really important that you go ahead and mark the hood, because when you're getting ready to put this all back together, you want to know exactly where everything's lined up. Otherwise, you're going to spend a tremendous amount of time lining the hood back up, and it can be a real son of a gun. The other thing for you young guys is to make sure that you know which way the motor's coming. Some motors, the newer cars, you have to drop your K-member, and it doesn't need to come out through the top. Me personally, I always like to remove a hood. It just gives me a lot more light. I'm getting older, and it just helps me see in, and I can get to everything a lot easier. If I yell suddenly, yell help, get out of the way.
Now Doug has got the tools required to go ahead and pull off the battery, 6-volt in this case. We're going to go ahead and pull off the power wire going to the solenoid and the ground wire going to the chassis. Don't forget, we have a reservoir mounting bracket right here on the passenger side frame rail that we're going to crush if we don't get it out of our way. And then we have a ground strap right here going from the horn to the engine block. We got to get it out of our way. We've already removed the generator and the starter along with its cables, so they're out of our way. All we got to do is remove that battery, cut this ground, remove that bracket, we can go ahead and pull that engine.
It's real important. We're going to go ahead and take the fan off. As we get ready to pull the motor, if we don't take the fan off, as we slide the motor forward, you're going to go ahead and bend this. So we're just going to go ahead and pop it off. If it gets a little bit tight, then we're also going to pop the water pump off. You can also see we've taken the heater hoses off, so we've gotten everything set up and ready to go there.
So basically, because our engine is so long and it's locked up, we can't turn it to get the transmission off. We think it's a good idea to go ahead and pull the nose off of this car. All the trim is in perfect shape. We got to get it to the body shop anyways. That's going to save us a lot of time and money. So join us next week where we're actually going to take this engine out of the car.